How you doing, guys? You know, there was a time I actually did like my job here. I've been here quite a few years now. It was about 2018 actually. The corporation who owned the building didn't want to re-sign the lease of the people that initially hired me. They wanted to take over the business, thinking they could duplicate what we did here. Didn't happen. The funny thing about corporations, I never quite fit in with corporations. I never really was one to conform to their way of thinking, acting the way they think I should act, or looking the way they think I should look. I had a bullseye on me from day one. Funny thing is, all these years later, I'm still here. But what saved me was they had taken over just to sell the place as a franchise. Because corporate's still trying to get me out of here, but I'm still here. Unfortunately, when my current employers took over, I was all that was here, and they left it that way, which initially was fine, but I was working so many hours, it was starting to take its toll. I'm not a spring chicken, and as the months had progressed, I had developed some health issues. And I finally told my boss, I said, dude, you've got to find me some help. I can no longer do this. He kept putting it off, putting it off, putting it off. And it was pretty apparent I was starting to slow down on the job as well. Well, about 2 months ago, we had some clown come in. Now, this is the type of person who is an expert at everything, but really has no skill. I could see him from a mile away and knew what he was. See, he was trying to make himself look good at my expense. Told my employers he could do my job better than I could. You know, you get rid of him. He's no good. I can do this. I got experience. And the problem is, my employers take people at face value. My thing is, if you're that good, don't sing it, bring it. Which I opted to stay out of it. So they told me they were bringing him on. He had experience. I wouldn't have to show him anything, which is fine because I wasn't going to show him anything anyways. But I looked at the schedule, and I'm like, yeah, you know, I can live with this. It'd be nice to be able to see the sunrise from home, which lasted about a week and a half. First day off I had in ages. So I was sitting at home, laying there. I got a text. Look at the phone, it was work. I'm like, what do they want? Well, apparently one of the girls was texting, said there was customer complaints. The food wasn't coming out right. Apparently she wanted me to come in and save the day, but I'm like, no. Now this guy did me some damage verbally. Let him prove his point. Let him see if he's that good. Well, this went on all morning. I'm getting texts and phone calls all morning. He was changing everything in the kitchen, creating so much work for himself, and I'm like, stay home, don't get involved. Lunchtime came. Now, the lunch crowd we have here are basically all the workmen in the area, so they don't have a lot of time. They kind of got used to me. They come in, 10 minutes, they're gone. They go back to work. Cashier called me. Told me the wait times were 30 to 45 minutes, and he was cooking one item at a time. I almost came in to save the day, but I'm like, you know something? Let him sink. But a week and a half later, my employers realized that the guy was full of it. They pulled him out of the kitchen, so I'm back to working these insane hours. Well, not only is he not that good in the kitchen, but he's not even that good on the register. He had a meltdown several Saturdays ago. Oh, my anxiety, I have to go. I was embarrassed for him. He climbed on the back seat of somebody's car that was going to drive him away, and we didn't see him for several days. Boss was like, I think we need to get rid of him. I says, yeah, dude, you better find somebody else. The very next Saturday, same thing happened. As a matter of fact, we had a fire in the kitchen that Saturday. He came in, says, at his time he was supposed to be there. Say, I'll be back. I got something to do. Never came in again. And the following Saturday pulled the same thing. I said to my boss, are you seeing this? He's not going to show up on Saturday, so don't schedule him for Saturday. Well, right now he's PO because he's working 2 days a week. Well, what the hell do you do if he's not going to show up for work? Obviously, the guy's not going to take my job by sinking me verbally. He already proved that he can't do squat. See, I've been in this business for a very, very long time. And there are certain things I can spot. There's certain lingo that people in the business use without realizing it, and you can tell by talking to them whether they actually worked in the food industry or not. He didn't have it. My guess is the only cooking experience he's got is cooking ravioli at home. And judging by what I saw over the week and a half that he was in the kitchen, that was pretty much the case. I always had issues with fitting in when I was younger, because I was always shamed. You got to get along with people. You got to learn to fit in. And that used to bother me. I spent more time in my childhood, in my early teen years, trying to fit in with groups of people. The funny thing is, the groups of people I tried to fit in with, I didn't even like. Now, my very first job, I was relatively young, was in a restaurant. It was an overnight job, and it was a very busy place. And this was a restaurant full of misfits. And I fit in pretty well there. And as I got older, got on the workforce for more years, I realized I didn't want to fit in with anybody. And there was no shame in not fitting in. There were jobs I liked, jobs I didn't. As a matter of fact, the jobs that had the cliques, I usually didn't last long at all. And there were other jobs I was on for many years. But I learned one thing, never trying to conform to anybody else's way of thinking. I look the way I do, I'll act the way I do, and at this stage of the game, that's not changing. Which brings me to my years as a JW. Now, by this point in time, it was pretty apparent that I was not going to conform to anybody else's way of thinking. And we all know that Jehovah's Witnesses are all about conforming to the way they look, to the way they act. Now, the first thing they went after me was my appearance. They hated this. They hated the facial hair. I had longer hair at the time. And that was the first thing they went after. All I heard was, you really need to start looking like one of us. Followed by the remainder of the time I was in, you need to start acting like one of us. You know, if it wasn't for the fact that they wouldn't smother so much, I may still be a JW today. But I could live with it at the meetings or out in service. But when they start invading your home life and your outside life, popping up randomly, that's got to be a bit much. And I realize, you know, my days are coming to a number. I'm amazed that I lasted as long as I did, because I did notice it's all about conforming. And it was pretty apparent that I was not going to. As the years went by, more and more witnesses realized Vinny's Vinny no matter where he goes. He's not going to act like somebody he's not. So I was eventually labeled bad association, which was fine. I was talking to a witness, one that I knew from pretty much the very beginning. She was a woman that pretty much spoke her mind. I kind of liked that. She and her husband was somebody I got along with very well. And we were out in a car group one Saturday, witnessing. And, well, the brothers got out of the car to go to the door, and she and I were in the car talking. And she pointed out something that I knew. She says, you know, I've noticed that most of the witnesses that come in from the outside are basically misfits. They don't fit in anywhere. So when they get loved bomb at the hall, it was funny that she used that word. She says, when they get loved bomb at the hall, they get lured right in. And then she looked at me and said, what are you doing here? I didn't take that as an insult, and I don't think she meant it as one. I started thinking about it, because fitting in was never an issue with me. So I really don't know why I got lured in. I didn't get lured in for the same reason others get lured in, because I started noticing that the misfits that did get lured in were still treated like misfits, as well as I was. And most of them didn't even have a problem with that. If you're a JW, or even if you're an ex-JW, and you still feel the need to fit in, don't. Because the thing is, if you're conforming to the way somebody else is thinking, eventually you're going to fall flat on your face. It's not going to work. The real you is eventually going to come out. And you really want to act like somebody you're not. And that's pretty much the way it was at the Kingdom Hall. Yeah, and the thing is, they like to call it the new Christian personality, when it really is not the new Christian personality. It's a repressed form of yourself. You're living totally repressed. You're living in a little bubble. You're not you. you're somebody that they're trying to create. And eventually, the real you's going to come out. It's an awful lifestyle. Never let anybody shame you into acting the way that they think you should act, looking the way that they think you should look. Anyways, guys, I got to get this day started. I just wanted to get this message out there. I'll be talking to you soon. I'd love to hear your thoughts. You guys have a good day.